So this is the Facebook part of it, and we'll have a look at what I've put on this week. The one I added today was from ICANN Network Limited, which is an organisation from Australia. It's an online course or group, autistic peers and mentors for transition for high school, transitions to year 7, and it's on Fridays. And what it says, it's autistic led. It's from October the 23rd to December the 4th. It's about navigating the initial transition, managing change, self-care and sensory needs, and asking for help.
This is impressive, isn't it? The stuff that they're doing.
It is.
We come across them again and again, and they're leading the way in lots of ways in both Australia and New Zealand.
So basically, it's a new group on a Friday evening because of high demand. Our mentors know what it's like to navigate high school as an autistic student. They provide a safe, supportive space for participants to explore various facets of the milestone transition while fun sharing interests and experiences with autistic peers. So it's 6 one-hour weekly sessions. And they say that we also offer dozens of different types of online groups for autistic young people ages 8 to 22. And there's a link for the schedule for anybody interested on this.
We don't have anything like this over here, do we? Not at this sort of scale. They're offering dozens of different types of online groups for autistic young people. This is something that should be used as an example. But we must contact these people. Is that something you could do?
Well, I certainly could do that. So there's someone we could contact. It would be very interesting to hear, because it's very progressive, very positive. I mean, there's hard-hitting stuff that they come out with, but it's got the positive spin on it somewhere. So it's not totally draining reading or draining experience of watching a video, whatever, or a picture. It's like at the end of it, you feel, a bit inspired, even within yourself, even though you're not involved. Because there's a lot of things that make total sense.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I don't know quite how we would frame it. Maybe we should have a conversation on Tuesday about how we'll contact them and what we could say to them. We've got the Swan Group over here, and they won an award recently for their pre-diagnosis peer group, didn't they? There's a big gap over here for, I know, something at scale, something national at scale, which would produce any kind of peer group, online peer group thing. Somehow we need to get people together to organise something.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's certainly a gap that needs filling in that kind of way.
Well, this completely joined up online peer group of everyone.
I think you're right. I mean, you're organising an online peer group as well, but it's mainly for, well, it's people who find you in our region, isn't it? Because it's online and it's offline. Yeah. But, I mean, there's so many of us that, we can have small groups, we can have, if we had something that attempted to make a larger group, then other splinter groups would come from it, and small groups would happen as well.
Such things have happened before. I mean, Wrong Planets and SB Village, and there's another fresh one that there's regularly called for. There's just the expectation level is the same as them.
It's whether they're easy to access. It's what you say about the inclusivity, and people will join things if it's easy, but they get stressed if there's a lot of work involved or theres a sign-up process. And it's getting it easy access that, anyway.
Yeah, there's a balancing act when it comes to that. Because obviously things are done a certain way for security purposes, but in that way it's not inclusive, is it? But
it's a tricky one. Well, moving on to the next one, I'm going to take it because I don't want to embarrass you. You can't read your own post. We're lucky enough to have you putting out blog pieces now, and I'm going to read your piece because I thought it was very nicely worded. Autistic Radio continues its blossoming and connection to many in the autistic community through the language of information, emotion, and humour, in words, in pictures, in video. I am particularly moved by the number of personal blogs and diaries of people sharing their own autistic experience, an experience that describes the identity of autism on a more human, individual level. A visit to the doctors, an emotion in focus, an analysis of a hobby, a visit to the shops, etc. My mind is inspired to a regular blog for Autistic Radio based on this. This blog will focus on a particular project topic each time and add something a little different to our page, providing another individual autistic experience and giving collective thoughts in words. And I hope to inspire too. Signed, Harry. Thank you, Harry. That's poetic in the way you wrote that.
what came about this is it's already explained in there. But what my plan is to do a blog, but not try to be too wordy either. You know, this kind of short, kind of paragraphy on a particular topic, ones that we may have raised before, something that might be new. It's just something else to add to a growing page. And I'm happy to do that. Because I already do things like that in other ways. Like I do chairperson reports and things like that, another thing. I mean, chairperson reports sounds like very official, but it's not as official as it sounds. But it's like doing a sort of kind of updating things. So this is just like something similar, but more personal and more contained and hopefully more inspiring for others. So I look forward to doing that. It's something else for my mind to be occupied with, which I find quite exciting. So I look forward to doing so, and thank you for your support on that.
Yeah, more power to your elbow. Whenever you feel that you can't sleep, just get your jogs out and get down there.
The next one here is from Autism, a page from... It's a mother of a child with autism, and it's like a support kind of... I've talked about someone talked about the experience of being a parent and like supporting, the autism experience. And basically what the post that I've shared is about the daily routine. It's a number of pictures of children's doing different activities. It's called The Daily Routine, a wonderful collection of cards of actions used for increasing attention, concentration, perception, visual communication, development of mental imagination and linguistic output. And there's 40 pictures of showing different actions like sleeping, brushing teeth, children's activities, eating, just different actions and things that could come together like as daily routines that would help some people more comfortable in their daily activity, I'm assuming from this.
I'm guessing it's for young children. The diagrams themselves seem very clear. I'm not sure quite how a parent would use them, but I think the parents will know. They do seem like, nicely presented images to me. And it's interesting that they have a lot of hashtags in Arabic next to them. So, and it's been translated from 2017, the original post. So it's a reaching out in some ways to the autistic parents around the world who, as we heard in the program that we were working on recently, a world in which neurodiversity is not really understood, and where autism is still seen in rather old-fashioned terms of simple mental illness. So I can see value in it.
I can see the pictoriality of each thing that kid is doing. It helps if there's problems with wording it and picturing it in words. And that's fine as that age. And then, and less inferential, more directly. Definite, here's what it is. That's what we've got to think of with these pictures things. I've come across in the past some kids with speech issues being helped communicate with an array of pictures, and it was something that's some folks are eager to jump on and say was patronising, but it wasn't if it was used at the... There isn't a good noun to use without getting into trouble, to use at the sort of configuration of needs as it matched.
Yeah, I agree with Maurice. I think people might have criticised these as patronising. And as he says, there are people for which they're useful for. And autism is a very variable thing. And the child that might find these incredibly useful might also be the child that turns out later to be a rather intelligent and special child. So we shouldn't close down any opportunities, should we?
No, and pictures can say a lot more than many kind of bouts of text could anyway. You know, it's like a simplistic approach, but very powerful. And yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways that this set of pictures could be used, and not just for autistic kids, but kids who are anxious, kids with learning disabilities or other developmental challenges. You could use them as a visual way of tell me what you did today, and that kind of skill of recalling short-term memory stuff. That's something that autistic people often have a particular challenge with short-term memory. This kind of visual reminder could help with developing that skill. It could also be used for managing and setting expectations. So if the kid's anxious about what are we going to do today and in what order, you could use these pictures and lay them out in a particular order. And then you can very easily, either the parent or the child can say, well, actually, we're going to do it in this order, and you move the pictures around. I was incredibly verbal as a kid. I mostly still am now. And this kind of thing would have been quite useful for me had I not grown up in a family where routines were there weren't many surprises in our daily routine. But this would have been quite useful for me as a memory aid of what we'll be doing today and in what order. Even maybe not with a picture of a kid, but this kind of stuff can be really helpful for people with cognitive challenges later in life as well, as a kind of what are we doing today? What have we already done? So visual aids are useful for like a whole range of people. And yeah, people might say, oh, it's a bit childish, it's a bit infantilizing, but I mean, if it helps, then that's the main thing. I don't think anything else really matters.
They do need adaptation for different cultures, and I'm sure that's happened in different places. It jumps out at me that they are being shared with Arabic writing, and I really hope that somebody has moved them to a different social context as well, so that they fit a different society.
The next one It's from Life of an Autistic Mum, a non-profit organisation. The description is like, welcome to our secret world of autism. Here we educate and spread autism awareness, love and light. And it shared a picture, and it's a quote, and it's very kind of powerful in what it's saying. And it says, just because I cannot speak doesn't mean I cannot hear. What you say matters.
I'm shocked a lot of the time by all parents and what they say in the hearing of their children, because an awful lot of things that adults say can be incredibly confusing. And I think for us as the autistic community with our sensitivities, what we have heard can be something that really plays on our mind. So all children should be guarded against loose talk by adults, in my opinion. Now that sounds rather old-fashioned, but I just think it's appropriate parenting.
Talking over you, and
I think one of the sentiments behind this idea is like that you have to presume competence. I think the sentiment behind this quote and this idea is that people presume incompetence when somebody doesn't communicate in the way that they used to, or if somebody doesn't look the same or behave the same. And I know people who are wheelchair users, and they have a physical problem with their legs. They have no cognitive impairment at all, but they find that sometimes people will speak to whoever they're with and not to them directly. You know, like if they're in a cafe or something, in a situation where you are speaking to people. And I think people tend to presume incompetence, and we have to not do that. We should always presume competence, presume that somebody understands us. Go with that first, and if that person does need additional methods of communication, or we need to change the way we communicate, then we change it. But we presume competence. We don't just assume that because somebody has a challenge, a difference, that they are somehow incapable.
I can understand what you're saying, Liz. The assumptions made, and people make judgments from what they see from their first impression, and people sometimes jump the gun and think they're being nice by approaching things a certain way and approaching people in a certain way, like sympathetic and trying not to stand on any toes. But when doing that, they're obviously treating the person who may, and these people said that may need assistance or may look like they need help, or it's just an assumptions made, and they end up speaking to the person that's sitting with them. And you've got to go by what your rules are saying, is you've got to assume competence first, and then if there's people that need additional help, then you will be told. But yeah, it's like that sort of approach. I get what you're saying.
I've actually been in this situation quite recently where, for one reason or another, I couldn't speak. And I was being talked about in the third person. Live, with one person talking about me to another person. And just because I couldn't at that point in time vocalize the frustration of not being able to vocalize, but also having somebody saying things that I didn't agree with and didn't represent me, it just made it worse. And it exaggerated my inability to speak at that point. I don't have many episodes of not being able to speak as an adult, but that was within the last year.
Oh, well, there's an individual kind of experience to show how hurtful and how frustrating that can be. So, yeah, I totally understand that part.
I think it's pretty panicky if that's suddenly spiralling and you're stuck without a means to stop it. The sort of context reset that folks just switch each other into, and this very habituated. Partly as a coping thing, but folks don't know where to draw the practical line and the civil line. They need reminding.
The next one is another picture with another quote, and something that's quite hard-hitting as well. It's from the Chronic couple who do a podcast. Matt and Brandy, an autistic couple oversharing life on the spectrum and our experiences together. And what they've shared is a big colourful, rainbow, night sky, clouds. And basically what it says is, my autism isn't an excuse, it's an explanation. Big difference.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think people see our behaviour as bad and that we're making excuses for getting away with things. I'm doing the air quotes. We're not getting away with anything. We're just being ourselves. I remember shortly after diagnosis, I was telling friends one by one, and I said, I've just been diagnosed as autistic. And he went, aren't you going to use that as an excuse to do things you don't want to do? Sorry, what? Why should I do things I don't want to do? It was just funny. You went straight for this, but you were just going to use it as an excuse.
Oh, God, there's an attitude. Every use of the idea of excuse is a negative reaction to a negative judgment on an explanation. They're all explanations from the start, and it's fairness to explanations, is letting explanations show their own virtues logically.
Yeah, I mean, they actually go a bit more into detail rather than just this picture. It says, all too often we are accused of using our autism as an excuse for all types of behaviour that may not be understood by neurotypicals or people around us. After years of beating myself up and not understanding why I was so different, learning that I was autistic helped me to understand. It helped me to forgive myself for not being able to do certain things or be in certain situations that everyone else didn't have a problem with. It also helped me to stop believing that I was making excuses. I learned that when I can't handle something and have to remove myself from the situation, I am not being dramatic, that I'm having problems with my sensory surrounding and it's okay to leave. It gave my language and wisdom that made my life better. Although services for autistic adults are severely underfunded and scarce, finding a community of other autistic adults has made all the difference. So please understand when someone is making assumptions about accommodations that you may need, you are doing what's needed to survive in a world that isn't made for you, and that is far from an excuse. I totally get that. I've not been in situations like that myself.
I'm thinking of how during on the words theme, how during the lockdown, the phrase was without reasonable excuse, and that was almost already setting a bad judgment in place, and just should be without reasonable explanation. Probably since traditional law phrases using excuse formed, the pejorative culture with the word has developed, not least through school.
It's a negative kind of description of what an excuse is, and that sort of is hard-hitting on people that are going through genuine experiences and feeling that they need to apologise for doing so against the so-called normal society, aka neurotypical. The way you behave, the sometimes not being able to get up in the morning because your sensory overload's made you very, it's kind of exhausted you, and that makes you look like lazy. If you don't want to go out in social situation, that makes you look unsociable, unfriendly, and not going for certain types of jobs makes you look like, that's you don't want to make an effort with anything. All that is nonsense. But it's that kind of negative, that word excuse, and what it could, that it gets tagged with other things. Like the excuse getting used for, there's lack of funding to do this, or we can't, the reason this services went downhill is because of the COVID lockdown, which has created a backlog, and that sort of thing. So it's the negative side of that kind of description that kind of gets pinned on across people with autism. It's like we're trying to get away with things, which is not true. Well, certainly not in this case. The next one, it's from Autistic Not Weird. They provide articles and insight about autism. It's from Chris Bonello, an statistic author, advocate, speaker. And she shared an experience. So right now I'm having a chat with a friend and a 12-year-old son, a non-speaking autistic lad. This lad has an AAC device. He asked me if I wanted to hear a joke. Obviously I said yes, and he typed this. For a while I wanted to be a ventriloquist, but every time I tried throwing my voice I ended up breaking my iPad. I laughed so hard I choked.
Yeah, that made me laugh. That made me fully laugh out loud. There's a comedian who's on America's Got Talent at the moment. His name's Aaron Belial. He's half French on his left side, as he puts it. And he's non-speaking. He uses his phone to do his stand-up. And this sounds like, I don't know, he'd probably put more swearing in it, but yeah, just reminded me of that comedian as well. Funny joke though, very good.
The 12-year-old boy who expressed the joke is Tristan. Tristan, age 12, from Amherst, Massachusetts, USA. Autistic, non-speaking, anxiety, ADHD, and apraxia. And the picture that I shared, because that's where they got the information from, and what he said is, what I love most about my life is joke telling, being funny. My mum, best friends, Miss Kate, Carol, online school, swimming, ziplining, Amazon shopping, robots, doing science experiments, my Zen den, chilling and watching videos on YouTube, swinging, and my AAC device. I like going online school better than in person because I have friends, learn new things, and can be at home. I am amazing, I am smart, I'm a problem solver, and I am capable. What does AAC device stand for? Excuse my ignorance if anybody knows.
Alternative and augmentative communication.
It's nice to hear him saying that. I mean, this kid has obviously got support around him that has allowed him to grow up with a very positive attitude. So often we come across these good news stories that are, I don't know, propaganda. But this feels more real. This feels that the young kid is putting his own stuff out there. And it's nice to see that that's a positive version of a life,
Yeah, absolutely. Very inspiring to other people as well. Particularly someone so young as well.
I actually bought the book, so once I've read it, I can share some of the cool ones.
What book?
It's called What I Love Most About Life.
I didn't pick up there was a book. Oh my God, so he wrote the book?
Yeah, so Chris compiled the book with, I think it's 150 people.
With 150 people?
Yeah. It's called What Do You Love Most About Life? Answers from 150 Autistic Minds.
Okay, well, still a project. Well, we did a collection of voices, and the Ordinary Life 2 book with Ants, and I'm in one of the Luke Beard and Dean Wharton books, Bittersweet on the Autism Spectrum. But yeah, to him to get access to all these people, he's got good links and good, I suppose, folks having set up the means to have widely reaching connections.
Yeah, there's incredibly good stuff going on out there. It's bringing it all together so people can access it. I'm always impressed when Liz speaks that how much she is connected to so many different things. And it makes me feel as though I don't know very much because I'm not involved in these things.
Yeah, I just spend quite a lot of time on Facebook, and my feed is about 60% neurodivergence, so I just absorb a lot.
That's a hell of a skill.
The next one is from Reframing Autism, a charity organisation. Reframing Autism is run for autistic people, their families and allies, and appears to be from Australia. And what the quote they have here in the picture is, they say the more research you can do, the more you can access the experience of other autistics, the more aha moments you'll be able to have on your journey to understanding how to help yourself flourish. And what they're saying is a new autism diagnosis or the empathy that you are autistic can be very validating. Some autists describe it as feeling like finally coming home to myself. However, the same identification might also lead you to question or reassess some things in your life as you adjust to your new normal. It is common to feel upside down, confused, or in flux. And what this was is they're discussing how to navigate being newly diagnosed as autistic as an adult.
Yes. The experience needs validating itself. There's been a issue in some places with resistance to seeing it in adults. Yes, validate us. Validating me and justification of problem experience.
I followed the link to the page and I would recommend it as a page. It's only recently been put on their website, the 21st of September. They also have a group of podcasts in there. They have some learning essentials and other resources. I think overall it's a website that's advanced in comparison to a lot of the stuff we see over here.
Does Australia have that sort of more progression in autism anyway, I feel, from the experience that we've kind of shared on here and on the Facebook? It seems to be that way, and kind of, inspiration, which is good to see. Something more positive, something more helpful, which is nice to see. And getting away from the negative language and talking about your own experience. The individual experience is the most important thing. When you talk about autism and diagnosis or identity, it's about individual identity, which is the most important thing, and your own experience and sharing and that experience and may inspire or help others. That's what's good about it. So, thanks everyone for being involved. I've enjoyed being back after 2 weeks away, and I look forward to the next time. So, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Yes.